Hello, San Francisco, and welcome once again to the Angelic Troublemakers. I'm your host, Alan Jones, and on today's program, Donkey Kong Juvenile Justice Reform. I'm bringing you this program this week based on a game called Donkey Kong. And the reason why I am bringing you this program is I see a connection between a bad experience that I had with a game of Donkey Kong. I used to teach the Bible up at the San Francisco Juvenile Hall. I have a few stories to tell that I say started back in well, could say 1983, but this particular story about this Donkey Kong machine was the end of my time up at the juvenile hall, basically. Now, I had in 1993, March or April, somewhere around there, had sent a letter to the then chief of probation up at the San Francisco Juvenile Hall, Juvenile Probation Department that oversees Juvenile Hall. And in the letter, I had warned them that the young people up there were restless. I taught Bible in the maximum security unit, usually 16, 17-year-olds who had been brought up to the facility on some serious charges: murder, rape, gang violence, assault with a deadly, you name it. But they were the more, if you will, senior young people of the facility, more sophisticated, if you will. And so, in doing my observance, keep in mind, I was up in the maximum security unit from 1983 to 1993. And as I had warned in a letter, then a subsequent personal meeting with the chief and the director at the time, I told them that the way the facility has been shifting its treatment of these young people, it was getting them more restless, more playful, and it was not good for these young people. Well, after I did warn them, I think it was around March or April, I don't remember, of 1993, they brought in this Donkey Kong, excuse me, this is a picture, an image I found on the internet, but it was this Donkey Kong video game. They rolled it into my unit where the maximum security kids, right in the middle of my Bible study. On Thursday nights from 7 to 8 or 6 to 7, I don't remember the time, I had an hour-long Bible study up at the facility. And in this time, I had complete control of the room. But when they rolled that in right during my Bible, this video game in right during my Bible study lesson, I knew the end was near. I had lost control of the room, not by my doing, but by the facility's plan to, in my words, pacify these young people. Well, it didn't work. Just imagine You bring a video game up to juvenile hall to 25 murderers, rapists, and gang members and see how long it takes for them to get out of control. Now, they were getting out of control earlier, but 2 months after, well, maybe 4 months, I'm sorry, a few months after that video game was rolled in, I guess these young people got tired because the biggest escape in the history of that facility happened while I was up there. 11 young people found a way to escape out the back door, and I think that though some of them were instantly apprehended, one or two of the murderers, it took maybe 2 to 3 years to recapture them. And my outrage over that situation when I had warned the facility was the beginning of the end for me. Well, excuse me, it was the end. It happened to be my last evening up at the facility that night, August 20th, 1993. And so I see that happening again. And so why I'm bringing this to you, entitling it Donkey Kong Juvenile Justice Reform, is because the people, the powers to be, at City Hall and at the Juvenile Probation Department, they do not know what they are doing by trying to close the facility. Now, I have a few stories to tell, and I'm going to connect why I see what's going on today is not good. First, I learned last year, reading my paper, they're going to close down the facility, and it was based on the San Francisco Chronicle twisting a subject and get the ball rolling. And so they're going to close the facility. What are they going to do with the young people? Well, what they're going to do with them is the plan is to house them in more home type settings to try to better minister, if you will, to the needs of these young people. It ain't gonna work. By closing the facility, I think that they have eyes on that facility for another purpose. So what are they gonna do? They're gonna take that prime property up there, dump the kids out into the community, claiming that they are they want them less incarcerated settings. And so doing this, they think we know how to better handle these young people. Well, they don't. I am a person who is not opposed to alternatives to incarceration. While I was up at the juvenile hall, it hurt my heart that I had a room full of 25 mostly black kids and sometimes all black kids up at the facility in my Bible studies. It was a constant thing. I think that you could have gone, and I'm not exaggerating, 6 months, every Thursday night and every Sunday that I was up there for sure, a classroom of nothing but black juveniles up at the facility for various reasons. Now, I probably spent for many years 5 to 6 nights a week up there where I was doing one-on-one and stuff like that. But I noticed my heart was not, I mean, to see all of those black kids up there. I'm not saying that I was wishing for more whites and Hispanics, Latinos, and Asians to be up there. No, it was just the fact that the room was all black kids who got in trouble. So I'm not the type to suggest locking up black kids just for any old thing. But I'm opposed to the plan that City Hall and Juvenile Hall probation is doing for these young people. Why? Because this a Donkey Kong type attitude where you offer more playful type things to pacify them when they're going through serious issues in their young lives, that ain't gonna work. Now, might I add, there is a California Senate bill, I think it's SB 889. It's called a placeholder bill right now because a senator from Berkeley, California, introduced it when, and her goal, which is based on something that's happening in another state, Virginia or Vermont or something like that, where it's been tried, they're going to up the age to house young people or to try young people as juveniles up to 20 years old. Now, what does that mean? It means there's going to be more young people that are needed to be housed at the juvenile hall here once it passes. Now, this is not going to happen for a while, I understand. But just imagine, on the state level, you're planning on doing something to house more, to try more young people as as juveniles in juvenile court. At the same time, San Francisco is trying to close a juvenile hall because it doesn't have enough kids, so they say. But here's the thing. The state of California's plan is to better treat these young people not as criminals. Guess what the plan is for San Francisco? To treat them not as criminals. A rehabilitative issue is what's driving San Francisco, so they say. And on the state level, it's to offer more rehabilitative services for these young people instead of prison life. Well, this didn't work. And so when I say that that didn't work, who knows this? I know it. It's a playpen atmosphere. And I'm saying that it's going to backfire. Now, I have to throw another story in here. When I first began to teach, or was asked to teach, a Bible lesson up at the juvenile hall, before I even did my first lesson, which I reluctantly did, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was teaching a Bible study up at the juvenile hall. I was falling asleep and the kids in the room were falling asleep. That is an actual dream that I had. When I awakened from the dream, I laughed and I said to God, I get it. You don't want me to be boring. And so I did all my Bible studies based on the fact God commanded me not to be boring. Now, I had been in a room where there was some boring teaching, and I knew that something didn't seem right. But the dream that I had was such an awakening thing. I took on the challenge, and I did an awful lot of things that I know kept these young people's attention. In 10 years of teaching Bible lessons up there, I had not one problem. Now, I have to say, the person that I replaced, the kids in the unit, beat up the minister. And so I learned, later on of that, who I was replacing. And the fact that these young people are today being treated like they're all candy thieves when they have some serious issues, I have a problem with that. And though City Hall and the juvenile probation, well, no, we're not treating them like they're candy thieves. We know that they're serious offenders here. Yeah, they are. Well, why then are you allowing kids who were arrested for manufacturing guns? You release them with a phony diploma. And when I say a phony diploma, I know that there are kids up there who are not getting educated. Why? Because their sophistication is way above the curriculum that they're being taught. They're being dumbed down, and I'm telling you, this is a recipe for disaster. And though they have all kinds of other newer things up the facility today, I'm saying it's not much better because they're trying to double down on their Donkey Kong approach to what I say is going on in criminal justice. Now, I have to also put in the fact that I have an awful lot of belief in the young people who I see today on the streets. And I've seen some really encouraging things. I've been on a muni bus where some kids that looked like they were I don't know how to. Some had spiked hair, some had all kinds of forms of dress that looked ridiculous. Well, when a man was getting up to get off the bus, these kids that looked like young ruffians, one of them, "Hey, sir, you left your wallet." The man was shocked. These kids looked like they would be stealing, but no, they returned the wallet to a man where the wallet had just fallen out of his pocket. Now, I know that there are kids who are running around stealing. And so I understand that not all kids are the same. And we cannot treat these young people who are having more challenging issues with adapting to life with a game of Donkey Kong type therapy. To take a facility where reflection and education should be going on and turning it into something where it's just a playpen until they move out of the system. That's what's going on, and that's not right. Now, I will tell you, there's an awful lot of people who will say to me, oh, that's not what's going on up at Juvenile Hall. You're wrong. Well, I have seen it with my own two eyes. I have no reason to lie. But I do know that the young people who have these more challenging issues, there's other issues that I have noticed and have been told. Now, I'll confess that this next story, 27, 28 years old, but it's a truth that I see that is going on. I went in to counsel this young man in his room, and they all called me Brother Allen. And so he starts off, Brother Allen, I love math, and I love computers. But they can take 25 kids down to the gym, but they can't take one kid, meaning him, down to the computer room. He was letting me know how he was carried down to the gym every day, and he had passed the classroom where he seen a row of computers. He wanted to be in that room full of computers. They, because of staffing, was not going to allow that. He had to go with the rest of them down to the gym. Now, I understand that there's safety issues. You know, you can't have one kid and one adult in a room full of computers and only the kid knows computers. I understand all of this. But the fact is that this young person saw something that was wrong when he was trying to get his life together after making a mistake. The system was working against him. That's Donkey Kong justice reform working today. And I'm saying that this Donkey Kong justice is not the way we are going to get the more serious or harder to reach young people to turn around. Now, I know that it is a challenge. You're going to have a whole lot of patience if you're going to be dealing with young people. I'll tell you another story of patience that gives me hope. Now, this is not a young person up at the facility, but in the Mission District where I was raised. For 2 years, there was this young man who constantly I was just encouraging. And I mean, he was dealing with crack, doing all kind of silly stuff. And he would constantly, I seen him in the neighborhood, and I knew he was up to no good, but he was such a pleasant guy. He was just trapped. And for 2 years, I spoke to this young person, and all I did was try and encourage him. And he wasn't budging, but I just stayed the course. Well, then, one day, I opened the door to my house, and he's at the bottom of the stairs, and he's in tears. And I went down, and I asked him, "What's up? Why are you crying?" And he said to me, "I'm ready." And then we had a further conversation. And in this conversation, he told me how he became ready. One of his friends said to him one sentence, and the sentence was, and I quote, "You will do anything for that drug." And so this young man, it hit him. He's right. He would do anything to get high. And so it was at that point that he said he was ready and he knew where to come. And so I directed him to what I thought was the best place for him to get help. And I don't know where he is today. The story is old. But the fact of the matter is it was 2 years after that incident that I learned that he was still on the course. Now, I'm saying it's going to take years for us to reach these young people. Now, can you imagine giving some kid 2 years of fun and games and undereducating these kids? Well, that's what's going on right now. If you go up to the juvenile hall, sure, you'll find some younger kids up there getting some education because they're that far behind. But there are some very sophisticated young criminals out there. And if you're not going to challenge them, you're not going to get them to change. I had come up with an ideal. And in this ideal, can't find it. I had sent it to the former chief probation officer of San Francisco Juvenile Hall. But didn't work. Why? They had just got rid of him before my ideal could reach his desk. Well, it reached his desk, but he let me know that he was being let go. And so I do know that there are some things that we can do to challenge these young people and get them out of the rut of criminal thoughts. And so I understand that even these young people who they know you can just jump on the internet and learn more about guns than anybody in the world could sit down and teach them on another subject. But you have to stay the course. And I'm saying that there's an awful lot of young people who know that you can just get on YouTube and find out various subjects. So we have to be so challenging to these young people to snatch them from the clutches of evil, if you will, and the clutches of a life of crime. And we can't do it with Donkey Kong justice reform. It just won't happen. And because it will not happen, I send this warning to the people of City Hall and juvenile probation. Wake up. Wake up and realize rolling in some new program at a time where the state's doing the exact opposite for the same reason, we got to we got to shake our heads and realize we have to come together. Not one do one thing and one do the other and expect the same. So until next time.